Ever had a classmate who became legendary for the weirdest reason? What happened?
Have you ever had a classmate that seemed like they were always doodling? Well, suffice to say, I've had some rather interesting encounters with the artistic endeavors of fellow students. One piece in particular sticks out in my mind, though it wasn't so much the subject of the drawing as what it implied about the antics of the person who drew it. The young man in question had transferred to the school midway through 7th grade, and although we didn't have any classes together, he seemed to be amiable enough when passing me in the hall. After a brief conversation about something not particularly memorable, I invited him to eat lunch with my friends and me. He accepted, and after arriving at the disused parking lot where my group usually congregated, we all went through the standard inquiries and introductions. As is typical of such conversations, the subject of personal interest eventually came up, and the young man mentioned that he was an aspiring artist. I can't recall if it was out of politeness or genuine interest, but my friends and I encouraged our new acquaintance to showcase some of his work for us. After some slight hesitation, he agreed. From out of the young man's backpack came an assortment of loose paper and dog-eared notebooks, all of which were covered in sketches depicting a fairly standard theme. Each drawing featured a masculine figure brandishing a medieval armament of some sort, a sword, a spear, a staff, while frozen in a dashing pose that seemingly implied a courageous rush into battle. There were no adversaries to be seen nor damsels awaiting rescue, just a valiant hero caught in mid-stride with his formidable weapon held aloft. A friendly round of compliments and light-hearted teasing followed the exhibition, after which we all forgot about the sketches at least, until the incident that made their invisible prophecy come true. It was a day like any other, as wholly forgettable as the day before, until I arrived at the parking lot where my friends were waiting. Right away, it was clear that there was some piece of intriguing gossip being discussed, and I quickly asked to be filled in on it. "Remember that guy from before?" a friend of mine asked. "The guy with all of those drawings?" I nodded my affirmation, and my friend continued. "He got caught jacking it in English class." Now, everyone had heard stories of such things before, whether they were entirely true or not, but it was a young artist's reaction to being caught that made this tale particularly unique. According to the legend, his extracurricular activity had first been discovered by a girl sitting directly next to him. She had released an ear-splitting shriek of "ew" and jumped up from her seat, all the while pointing an accusing finger at the young man's nether regions. Rather than reacting as any sane person would have, he opted to imitate the figures in his artwork. The young man leapt to his feet, took hold of his weapon, and with a triumphant he chased the terrified girl from the classroom and down the hall. The young man's suspension lasted for 2 weeks, during which time he allegedly received a psychiatric evaluation of some kind. When he finally returned, he was all but entirely ostracized from every social clique in the school, as everyone was rather uncomfortable around him. His reputation was eventually forgotten when another student brought a playboy to school, but I personally doubt if I'll ever look at jousting the same way again. TLDR, a knight without his armor, a damsel in distress.